Welcome to the OnCampus College Planning Podcast, where we provide insights and guidance on everything from the value of AP classes to making the most of your campus visits. This is real college planning advice for real families like yours, because it's the University of You, not the University of Them. I am Tom, your host, and welcome to episode 8, Why the ACT Still Matters. You can listen to our episode 7, which was all about how, why, and when to talk with teens about the cost of college, and episode 6 and beyond. 6 was about the FAFSA. Hopefully you've taken care of that if you need to fill that out this year. Those are all available on Spotify and Stitcher, and you can also be watching these on YouTube. And if you want to sign up to get regular updates, there's a link on the homepage of OnCampusCollegePlanning.com right below the picture of me with the happy family down there. Shout out to seniors getting some great emails and mostly text. Seniors, they don't email you, they text you. And sometimes it's the dads or moms that text me. But just some great news here in the last week. Grace got into a very elite East Coast university that was her first choice. She's excited about that. Meg got into a fantastic school in very warm weather. She's excited about that. And Joe is just killing it. Joe just got into direct admit into a business program at a fantastic Pac-12 university, and so many others. So those are just a few of them. But congratulations to Joe and Meg and Grace and their parents and their posse as well. So let's talk about why the ACT still matters. I'm going to give you 4 reasons why it still matters and why I think you should consider investing at least some time and effort. I didn't say anything about money there. Time and effort. And yeah, some of these resources and options are going to cost some resources as well. But mainly, let's just talk about why it still matters and why you might want to put forth some effort to get a really, really nice score. Second thing is I'm going to dispel some of the rumors. There's a lot of myths and misconceptions about the test. And most importantly, I'm going to talk about whether or not it matters to colleges. And then you can make a decision whether or not it matters to you, your student, your family. Also going to give you just a real broad outline of a timeline. It's December 13th, and I'll be talking a little bit to our fans and friends in the state of Wisconsin about the state mandated March 8th exam and just kind of the overall timeline of when we need to take this and how I will do this. So let me start off with something that I hear quite a lot. I actually heard this from a student very recently. She said, I heard that you don't have to take the ACT anymore to get into college. Well, you know what? That was true in some cases. There were some test optional colleges before COVID. Most did require an ACT or SAT. And as you know, I'm an ACT test prep guy, and Wisconsin is an ACT state. So if you're listening from another state and you're SAT folks, just think SAT every time I say ACT instead. Yeah, you could get into some colleges with a low ACT score. You could get into some colleges without an ACT score before COVID. And you could get into some good colleges, but you couldn't get into all colleges. And so a lot of people came to us and other people to help raise their score. Well, what happened with COVID is that we have more choice now. So I get to choose whether or not I want to submit a score. And so I would say back to that student, to that mom that says, I heard you don't have to take it anymore to get into college. You don't. At most colleges, you don't. But you also don't have to take challenging courses. You don't have to earn good grades. You don't have to volunteer. You don't have to play sports. You don't have to write great essays to get into college. This isn't about getting into college. This is about creating more options for myself and getting into the colleges and programs that I want to have on the table when it's time to choose. There's a huge difference between what I have to do and what I may want to do. So why are we in a test optional period? Well, as you can imagine, it goes back to COVID. And the main reason why we're test optional is because colleges realized that they weren't going to fill up their freshman class if they didn't go test optional. It was mainly a financial decision, and they were very aware that students had a lot of test sites canceled. Boy, from March 2020 until December 2020, we just sat around holding our breath for about 9 months. The April ACT was entirely canceled, and then after that, they have a June, a July, a September, October, and a December. And even then, it was up to the high schools or whoever was offering the test. It wasn't up to the ACT. We had kids getting emails a week before saying, "I know you were registered for the test, but we had to cut down the number of seats. We don't have enough space. We're trying to keep everyone spread out, and so unfortunately, you don't have a seat anymore." It was a really, really painful process. Now, that's not the case anymore. I have not heard of a single test site being canceled due to health reasons throughout 2021. There was a local district, the Madison district, which pushed their test back a month from March to April, partly to help with that, but they didn't cancel it. So we're not in a period where I can't take the test anymore. So that's not a reason. Okay. And now that colleges are test optional, many of them are saying, you know what, it's probably easier for us if we don't require it. And to be honest, it's kind of a good public relations move. There's always a lot of pushback, and there always has been a lot of pushback that I'm more than a number, and you shouldn't judge me based on what I do on one Saturday morning. Yeah, I know you're not a number. I'm not a number either. But numbers are important in college admissions. The most important number is your GPA. That's a number, right? And colleges take that seriously, and that has changed a lot in the last year and a half as well. So we're not trying to say that anyone is just a number, but that's how we got to test optional. It was mainly because of not being able to fill up classes, and then most colleges are doing this on sort of a 2-year pilot program. So let's talk about 4 reasons why the ACT still matters. And the first one is that higher scores mean better chances of admission and merit scholarships at the vast majority of colleges in America. Let's back up and let's just talk about what colleges are looking for in applicants. And this is a list that we share with families pretty much every time anyone comes in for a free consult or does one on Zoom. I'm usually holding up my fingers to make it really simple, and I hand them a PDF later. But I'm holding up my hand and I'm saying, okay, here's the most important thing. They are looking at your curriculum. Are you taking challenging courses? That's a choice. They're looking at your cumulative GPA after 3 years of high school, right? Do the grades match up with the challenging courses? And then number 3 has historically been that ACT or SAT score. Number 4 and number 5, they've switched in the last year or so. It's all of your extracurriculars, right? And then the other thing is the essays that you write as part of the application process. So those are number 4 and number 5. So if we go back to that list of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, if I'm applying test optional and I choose not to submit my score, then they're looking at 4 data points, so to speak, and they're not looking at that ACT. If I do have a good score, I very much want to include that, right? Now, the only colleges that aren't considering the ACT and SAT are colleges that have a test blind admissions policy. Test blind is exactly what it sounds like. They are not looking at tests. In fact, you can't even send them your perfect 36 on the ACT. They won't consider it. They won't look at it. It's just a piece of paper to them. It doesn't mean anything. On December 8th, I checked on the best resource out there for looking for, who is test blind, who's test optional, is a website called fairtest.org. And they posted an update on December 8th last week, and there are 86 colleges in America that are test blind, okay? Of those 86 colleges, 32 of them are public universities in the state of California, both the University of California system, like UCLA, Berkeley, UCSD, and then the Cal State system as well. That comprises 32 of those 86 colleges. There are only 4 in the Midwest, and most of you listening are somewhere in the Midwest. Doesn't mean you can't go to school in California, but closer to home, Northern Illinois, Northern Michigan, University of Minnesota Crookston, and Augsburg. Again, Northern Illinois, Northern Michigan, University of Minnesota Crookston, and Augsburg. Okay, Augsburg's up in Minneapolis. So there are 2,828 four-year, not two-year, but four-year colleges in America. So about 2,800. And of those, 86 are test blind. That's about 3%. Okay. So 3% are test blind. A third of those are in California. So 97% of colleges in America are still considering the ACT. So when you go back to that opening statement of, I don't have to take an ACT anymore to get into college, no, you don't. But you may wish to increase your chances of admission and merit scholarships as well. This whole thing is really about choice. It's about choosing what you want to do, how you want to spend your time and your energy and your resources. And that's not just for the ACT. That goes into something like, do we want to send our kid to a camp to get better over the summer at his or her sport or musical instrument or whatever? This is very much like that. And that leads into my second point, is that a strong score gives you an edge at highly selective colleges and in competitive programs. So most colleges post a general acceptance or admissions rate. So I'm going to use UW-Madison. It's just a little over 50%. And if you look at Madison, and then I guess we'll call it the sister college over on the wrong side of the Mississippi, University of Minnesota, shout out to Gophers. We have reciprocity with them. So, there are two major Big Ten universities that a lot of students here in the Madison area are considering. And both of those are test optional. Okay. But both of those have different admissions policies or acceptance rates for the more selective majors and schools and programs that they have. For instance, if you want to get into the Carlson School of Management, very prestigious business school, that's going to require better numbers and just a better application from you than if you apply to something like let's say history or philosophy, something in the liberal arts at the University of Minnesota. And the same is the case for UW-Madison. There are some direct admit programs like engineering and business where it's just harder to get into. And so this might be something where I need that extra card, that edge to help me get into, right? So that's the second reason. Strong score gives you an edge at highly selective colleges and in competitive programs. If you look at the Ivy League, at the most selective universities, the majority of students getting into those schools are still submitting a score. And you might say, well, yeah, that's because they already have those scores. Well, a lot of people thought everything was going to change with COVID and test optional. It really hasn't. The doors to Harvard have not flung wide open. And the same at UW-Madison or Minnesota or any college, the same is largely true. Acceptance rates haven't changed that much. It's still very competitive out there. Number 3, points pay you back. Many colleges continue to award merit scholarships based on GPA and ACT or SAT. Now, I can give you some examples. I can, name families and things like that, which I won't do. But this is really up to you. If you're not sure about merit scholarships, we've done a podcast about that. We'll talk a lot about that here in 2022. But merit scholarships are scholarships that have nothing to do with your need. So if you're a middle-income family or you just think we make too much to get any financial aid, you still may qualify for merit scholarships. And that might be one way where you can afford a private college or an out-of-state public college. And many colleges are still attaching ACT and GPA to merit scholarships. If you want to look that up, it's as easy as just saying, Google the name of the college and type in either a merit aid or merit scholarships or sometimes freshman scholarships, a lot of different combinations, and it should take you to a page where you can look at that. And many colleges have an easy to read chart that tells you how much you will get. And these are often automatic freshman awards that are renewable. I could easily think of many families that have told me, hey, you saved us $10,000 a year, not total, but $10,000 a year because of a higher ACT score. So that's at least something to consider. And that effort that I put into ACT prep and possibly, spending a couple $1,000 hiring someone to help me, that may pay off tenfold, possibly. And then the fourth reason, and this is one that I talk about the least, but a lot of parents bring this up, especially parents for whom we've worked with their older siblings. So I'm getting the second, third, sometimes the fourth student, maybe even the fifth sibling coming along, and they talk about the fact that ACT test prep can help students become better, more disciplined test takers. Tests still matter. I'm not talking about ACT, I'm talking about tests in high school. Tests still matter, and boy, when you get into college, tests are going to matter even more than that. Students will always take tests, and most students will tell me, I don't do as well on the tests as I do in the other parts, for homework and projects and things like that. I struggle a little bit in tests, and I've had a lot of parents tell me that that's part of the value they see in working with a coach to become a better test taker. It applies not just when you get into college, but applies here. COVID has really done a number on GPAs as well, and I'm seeing some huge gaps in terms of content and just thinking skills. And when we kind of squeeze all this out, part of what we're doing is teaching time management. We're teaching critical thinking skills. We're teaching students how to think in the moment and connect things that they don't know with things they do know. This is a very different test. This is not just memorizing stuff late at night and then regurgitating it on the test the next day. That doesn't. That's not how it works. So those 4 reasons why the ACT still matters and why it might matter to you and why you may choose to invest some time, effort, and possibly resources into this. Number 1, higher scores mean better chances of admission and merit scholarships at the vast majority of colleges in America. Number 2, a strong score gives you an edge at highly selective colleges and in competitive programs. Number 3, points pay you back. This could help you reduce the cost of college. And number 4, tests still matter, and prepping for an ACT helps me become a better test taker. Okay, so now let's talk about next steps and a timeline. Many of you are in the state of Wisconsin, and many of you have students, or you are a student at a public high school. So for juniors, you need to know this. March 8th is a really important date. All right. You are going to take the ACT on that. It might be your first attempt. It might be your second or third attempt. It might be your first of multiple attempts. Okay. But you are going to take the test on that day. If you've not taken a real ACT, right? If you've looked at a few tests, or maybe you took an ACT Aspire, or maybe you took the PSAT, or maybe you did some problems in your English class, and so you kind of have an idea of what it's like. I don't think you really do, and I really think it would be time well served to sit down and take a full practice exam under simulated test conditions sometime before the new year. Okay, it's December 13th. That gives you a couple of weeks. You can do this over break. We are offering a completely free practice exam, full-length practice exam. The 4 sections, we don't do the writing, but we do the English, math, reading, and science. That's going to be Tuesday, December 28th from 2 to 5:30 in the afternoon here at our offices in Fitchburg. If you'd like more information about that, you can contact me, Tom at OnCampusCollegePlanning.com. You can't sign up for that on the website, but I can get you signed up for that, and you can just call and ask more questions about that. And you'll literally walk out that day with your test booklet, copy of your answer sheet, and within about 24 hours, I will share your scores with you and even let you know how you did in different sections. And then you've got a starting point. Okay, so it's like stepping on the scale after the holidays and knowing, all right, well, this isn't what I want to do, and it might be scary, but at least now I know how much I have to go, or where I'm starting from. So getting a baseline is really good. Don't take an online test. This is paper and pencil. It's old school. Take a paper test. If you don't want to come to us, even if you don't live in the area, pop me a note. I'm happy to mail out a test with instructions on how you can have mom or dad act as the proctor. It's pretty easy, but you need a 3.5-hour time block with no distractions, only one break during that time, and you need to do it the right way to really know what it's going to be like. And the second thing is, after you have that baseline, or if you already have an ACT score, you need to look at some of the options and figure out what's the program and who are the people that fit your student and your budget if you choose to prep. Now, there's a lot of different ways to do this. So you could buy the official ACT guide. It's at Barnes & Noble, other bookstores. You can get it on Amazon, and it's a great resource. It includes 4 full practice tests. They might have some online ones. Don't use those, but that's about a $20, $25 option. I do know a lot of people that own really nice unused copies of that because they bought the book and the student didn't really do much with it. So just buying the book isn't going to get you there. You actually have to use it. There are a lot of online options, asynchronous options. So it's all, pre-recorded. You're not interacting with anyone. And I'm going to throw out a couple of options that I recommend. The number one that I would recommend would be Method Test Prep. I think they've got a really solid program, Method Test Prep. Kaplan, I think, is pretty good. There's some other, those are big national companies. We actually created our own online version. It's, I think, fairly affordable, $297 compared to a higher priced $1,900 standard test prep where you're working one-on-one with myself or Stephanie. We had a student recently that went through that online program and went up 9 points. Kind of amazing. Your results may vary, but he put in the time and he learned the same lessons as if he was coming to work with us one-on-one. You can do online courses where it's live and you can, interact with other students and teachers. Same options I would say apply there. And you may choose to do one-on-one coaching, right? Just like hiring a personal tutor or a personal trainer, and that could be online or it could be in person. You could go to a site like Varsity Tutors, which really doesn't have any offices. They're just kind of a aggregator for different people offering this. That could work really well. It's usually fairly affordable. It may be harder to judge how much experience somebody has in something like this. Locally, there's at least one Huntington office in town. They've got some good programs. The best one, if I'm saying, hey, who else is really good at this? And I think we're really good at this, and I think our numbers back us up. Gallon Education is fantastic. Zach's got a great stable of test prep coaches, and they offer a lot of services beyond just the ACT, but they're a great option as well. And yes, we do one-on-one coaching. You can find more information on our website about that. So I'm not asking you to listen to this podcast for me to sell that to you, but have those conversations now and know what numbers you have, know what your starting point is. You're going to need at least 30 and probably more like 60 days to prepare for this. So if I'm taking that March test, I really need to be kind of hitting the ground running very soon after January 1. I've got a student starting today, another student starting tomorrow, and then we've got a number of kids coming in that last week of December, 28th, 29th, 30th to get started on this. And then, we'll be meeting about once a week, sometimes once every 2 weeks leading up to that test. There's also a February 12th test, an April 2nd test, June, July, etc. You don't have to knock it out of the park in March, right? You can be taking tests even into September, possibly October, possibly December of your senior year. But my goal for you, whether we work together or not, my goal for you is that you have your ACT all wrapped up by the end of junior year. And most students who are really thinking about this seriously are going to take the test more than once. So look at the ACT website. You're not going to see the March 8th test up there because that's not what they call a national test date. But look at those and map out a strategy. I'm happy to do that with you as well. And think about, I'm going to take it here and then I'm going to take it again. And that's my plan. The number one reason why students don't increase their score after a first attempt or a baseline is that they confuse the idea of knowing how to do something with actually being able to do something, right? I can't just watch a YouTube video on how to, ski black diamonds and then be good to go. I'm going to break my legs and end up in the hospital. I've got to practice, right? I've got to have somebody help me, or I've got to find a way to practice, in a supportive environment, get used to that, master the bunny slope, and then kind of move on there. So I not only need to know how to do it, I need to be able to actually do it. And the second reason why students struggle is because they don't get enough quality reps. You can't go straight from the bunny slopes to the black diamonds. It's not going to work that way. You need more reps, probably more than you think. And that's why we're looking at really a 60-day window at kind of very minimum there. So that's a general timeline. Again, I am happy to talk about the specifics. If you say, yeah, but my kid's in a winter sport, or my kid's got dance competition, or the musical comes up this spring. You know what? Let's talk about all of those things. Let's sort of put all of the calendars out on the table, and then let's figure out what's a good approach for your family. What's your budget? Where are you looking at applying? We can be talking about what those numbers need to be. We can do all of that in a free consult. You can sign up for that right on our webpage. We can do it either in person or Zoom, whichever you prefer. That's all for today. That's why the ACT still matters. Yeah, I'm a guy that sells ACT test prep, so I still see some benefits to that. If you listen to this and you think, you know what, I think we're good without it, that's fine. Just be aware that, what I've said is true. Okay? It can still help you, and it still matters in some very real ways, and it can matter drastically financially. And I just want you to have the information so that you can make the best decision for your student and for your family. Until next time, I am Tom with OnCampus College Planning, and I hope to talk to you soon. Go College.